So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily MCQ Practice. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs through a set of 4 to 5 MCQs. Look, prelims is round the corner. It's about to come. And what is important for prelims? Well, MCQ practice is very, very important for prelims. No matter how much knowledge you have, you won't be able to clear this exam if you do not practice the required number of MCQs. Now, this lecture series actually makes you practice these MCQs from the topic of current affairs. You see, 4 to 5 MCQs might seem like little effort, but if covered on a daily basis, this would add up to more than 1200 MCQs from the topic of current affairs alone. And I don't need to remind you that current affairs forms the most important portion of prelims examination. Around 40 to 50% of the MCQs are directly or indirectly related to current affairs. Therefore, you need to make this lecture series a part of your daily routine, a daily habit of yours. Because through this, you will be able to master your current affairs for your prelims examination. Okay? Alright. So let's begin today's discussion starting with question number 1. Consider the following statements regarding Shankari Prasad versus Union of India case. It validated the first Constitutional Amendment Act. The first Constitutional Amendment Act introduced Article 31B and Article 31C in the Constitution. The judgment of this case was revised in Golaknath case of 1967. Alright. The thing is, as soon as India got independence in 1947, the freedom fighters who got India this independence knew that if India has to grow, then India's rural landscape, rural India has to grow, has to be reformed. And rural India suffered from very poor land ownership structure. Therefore, to reform rural landscape of India, you need to conduct land reforms. So as soon as India got independence, well, land reforms were conducted. But the problem was that Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause F guaranteed right to property as fundamental right. Now, if land reforms were to be conducted, then those land reforms would also snatch away surplus land with these zamindars. First of all, zamindari system was abolished through these land reforms. Now, those landowners, those zamindars might approach the Supreme Court saying that their right to property is violated. Therefore, the constitution makers, after the enactment of the constitution, enacted first Constitutional Amendment Act. Under this act, Article 31B was introduced. In Article 31B, it was said a schedule is added to the constitution known as the Ninth Schedule. Okay? Ninth Schedule. Now, in that Ninth Schedule, it was mentioned that any law made by the Parliament or the state legislative assemblies, if put in Ninth Schedule, they won't be challenged in any court of law, whether Supreme Court or High Court. So anything that is put under Ninth Schedule of the Constitution won't be challenged anywhere. Right? This was first Constitutional Amendment Act. Now there was a zamindar called Shankari Prasad Dev. He challenged this first Constitutional Amendment Act, saying that Parliament does not have the power to amend fundamental rights. They can amend anything in the Constitution but not fundamental rights. And he lodged a case in Supreme Court. This is known as Shankari Prasad versus Union of India. In that case, the Supreme Court sided with the government and said that the first Constitutional Amendment Act, the Ninth Schedule, are completely lawful and Parliament has the power to amend any part of the Constitution. So this case validated first Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, this first Constitutional Amendment Act introduced Article 31B and Ninth Schedule. But 31C was not introduced in the Constitution through first Constitutional Amendment Act. In fact, 31C was introduced by 25th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1971. So this statement is false because of 31C over here. The judgment of this case was revised in Golaknath case. Yes. So what happened was that this judgment, Shankari Prasad versus Union of India, it said that Parliament has the power to amend anything in the Constitution. But this point was raised again in 1967 in Golaknath case. In that, The Supreme Court revised its earlier judgment of Shankari Prasad and said that Parliament has the power to amend anything in the Constitution except fundamental rights. Okay, this Golaknath case. So Golaknath case revised Shankari Prasad case. This is absolutely correct. Though after Golaknath case, this power of the Parliament was again questioned in Keshav Nanda Bharti case of 1970s. And in Kesav Nanda Bharti case, Supreme Court again revised its order in 1967 Golaknath case and said, no, the Parliament can amend fundamental rights also. The Parliament can amend anything in the Constitution as long as it does not amend the basic structure of the Constitution. So Kesav Nanda Bharti case gave the basic structure doctrine. Okay, though as far as this question is concerned, only two statements are correct. The answer is B. Question 2. Which of the following statements is correct regarding Srijanam rig? It is India's first indigenous automated biomedical waste treatment plant. It was developed by National Institute for Interdisciplinary Science and Technology in Thiruvananthapuram. It uses incineration technology to treat biomedical waste generated at hospitals. Look, generation of biomedical waste at the hospitals is a big problem. In fact, Central Pollution Control Board says that a lot of biomedical waste is generated at these hospitals. Now, what can be this biomedical waste? What is this biomedical waste? Well, infected blood, infected with viruses and bacteria, infected blood, okay, infected blood tissues, infected organs, all these wastes are generated. Okay, and hospitals use incineration technology to dispose of this waste. Incineration technology means hospitals basically burn this waste. Now, when they burn this waste, it generates toxic fumes, right? And many other problems. Therefore, there was a need to find another technology to dispose of this biomedical waste. Okay. Now, India created its own indigenous automated biomedical waste treatment plant, which does not use incineration technology but other alternative technologies that are safe, that do not generate toxic fumes and toxic waste, and this biomedical waste is also disposed of. Okay, it was named Srijanam rig, and this first automated biomedical waste treatment plant was placed at AIIMS Delhi. Okay, so first statement is correct. Now, it was developed by National Institute for Interdisciplinary Science and Technology in Thiruvananthapuram. Now, this NIIST is a lab associated with Center for Scientific and Industrial Research. So, NIIST is an affiliated lab of CSIR, and CSIR functions under Ministry of Science and Technology. Alright, so this is correct. Now, it uses incineration technology. No, it was created to avoid incineration technology. Okay, because incineration technology generated toxic fumes. So this part is false. 1 and 2 only. Question number 3. Consider the following regarding Digital India RISC-V or V initiative. DIRV initiative. It was launched in April 2022 by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MeitY. Shakti Semiconductor Chips project developed by IIT Madras and ISRO was part of DIRV. RISC-V is an open source instruction set architecture for designing custom microprocessors. Now look, in this day and age, we are surrounded by electronics. Whether they are computers, phones, tablets, everything around us is made up of electronics. Now, these electronic items run on microchips, or we call them microprocessors. Okay, now these microprocessors are made up of semiconductors. The thing is, when it comes to electronics and when it comes to microprocessors, India is import dependent, and this is a very big disadvantage India has. Okay, if India wants to produce more and more electronics, it needs to import more and more microprocessor or microchips, and this is a disadvantage, or this is basically a blockage of sorts for India. Okay, if countries all over the world decide to not supply India with these microprocessors, India won't be able to manufacture these electronics. Therefore, India started its own drive of manufacturing microprocessors and semiconductor chips on its own in India. One such drive was called Digital India RISC-V initiative. Okay, under this initiative, which was launched by Ministry of Electronics in April 2022, India created Shakti semiconductor chips. Now, these Shakti semiconductor chips have a lot of applications in defense electronics, aerospace electronics, and many others. Now, this Shakti semiconductor chips were designed by IIT Madras and ISRO, okay, as part of DIRV initiative. So, second statement is correct, first statement is correct, okay. Now, why is it called DIRV? What does R stands for over here? So, R is basically RISC-V, okay. RISC-V is basically an architecture of designing microchips, okay. RISC-V is an open source architecture. Now, this might get a little complicated. You don't have to get into the complication. Just remember, it is a methodology of programming these microprocessors, okay. So, RISC-V is a technology or a method of programming these microprocessors, and under this, specialized microprocessors or microchips can be created. So, Shakti semiconductor chip is based on this architecture or methodology under DIRV. So, this statement is also correct. All statements are correct. The answer is D. And last, but certainly not the least, you know that UPSC asks geography or location based questions, right? And mostly those locations or geographical locations are from current affairs. So recently Baltic Sea was in the news, okay? So which of the following are correct regarding Baltic Sea? It is a semi-enclosed, highly saline inland sea that is surrounded by Scandinavian Peninsula and continental Europe. It is connected to the Atlantic Ocean through narrow straits of Denmark. Neva River is the biggest river that drains into Baltic Sea. All right. So basically the reason why Baltic Sea was in the news was because Russian oil tankers, ships, were roaming around in Baltic Sea and they are pretty old. And some experts say that one day these ships are going to get damaged and they are going to spill over all the oil on Baltic Sea. And this Baltic Sea would be full of oil spill, and oil spills generally also catch fire. So fire would be burning on the waters of Baltic Sea. And this oil also spreads around because it's lighter than water. Okay, so this is a big disaster that is impending. Because of this, Baltic Sea was in the news. Now, what is Baltic Sea? It is definitely a semi-enclosed sea, okay? And it is surrounded by Scandinavian Peninsula. Scandinavian Peninsula has countries like Norway, Sweden, Finland that arise from Europe, okay? So Scandinavian Peninsula and continental Europe. The area between these two places is full of waters called Baltic Sea. Now it is semi-enclosed because it is connected to Atlantic Ocean through very narrow straits around Denmark. Okay, so that is true. So it is connected to Atlantic Ocean through narrow straits of Denmark, yes. Now, more than 250 rivers drain their waters into Baltic Sea. The thing is that seas have saline water, okay, but rivers have fresh water. Now, because so many rivers are dumping their waters into Baltic Sea, there is so much fresh water that is being dumped into the saline Baltic Sea, which has reduced its salinity as compared to other seas surrounding it. Okay, so we cannot call it highly saline. These two words are incorrect in the first statement. Rest everything was correct. Okay. Now, 250 rivers drain their fresh water or dump their fresh water into Baltic Sea. The biggest among them is Neva River. So this is correct. 2 and 3 are correct. The answer is B. All right. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation, especially this year's prelims. But it would add more value if you'll spend another 5 to 10 minutes revising this lecture. Okay, and by revising this lecture, I mean taking a look at written detailed solutions to each and every MCQ discussed in this lecture. Now you can find those solutions in our notes. Okay. And these notes are available on our Telegram channel. Now, where can you find our Telegram channel? Well, just below this video in the comment section, you'll find a link. You just have to click on that link. It will take you to our Telegram channel, and from there, you can download the notes for not just this lecture, but all the other lectures featuring on our YouTube channel. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.